You're listening to the Weather Junkies.
Oh boy. Large wedge tornado coming up into Tuscaloosa. A winter storm warning is in effect for our area.
Official watches say we can expect at least another 2 to 4 inches overnight. Then that snow.
The National Weather Service in Huntsville has issued a tornado warning for northwestern Massachusetts.
14 to 22 inches of snow!
Good Thursday evening, and thank you for joining us on the Weather Junkies. I'm Tyler Jankowski, joining the show from Burlington, Vermont, alongside Dakota Smith in Colorado. And our guest this evening is Alli Keclik, and she will be joining us for our main segment in just a little bit. First, though, Dakota, take it away.
Hey, Tyler. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Weather today in Colorado. We actually had a nice storm go through Fort Collins and kind of dive across the Front Range of Colorado. Dropping some hail. There was a severe thunderstorm warning for a while. I think for mainly hail and gusty winds. But something kind of crazy happened to me with this storm. There was a gust front out ahead of it that was producing 40, 50 mile per hour winds. That were actually stronger for me than the winds in the storm itself. And I did not prepare properly, and I left my umbrella up outside my house. And it took the umbrella, but also before taking the umbrella, it shattered the table that it was in because it was a glass table. And I think the umbrella is salvageable, but the table is definitely not. So that was kind of a bad thing on my end. I really should have known to put it down before the storm came through. But yeah, anyways, it's been a really hot week in Colorado, 90s pretty much every day. It has been dry though, in terms of the atmosphere, low dew points, which has been nice because at night it gets down into the low 60s, upper 50s. So yeah, Tyler, how's the weather where you are?
Seems like that's an embarrassing mistake to make as a meteorologist.
Okay.
Anyways, the weather in my backyard has been gorgeous for the last few days. I've been commenting to everyone that it's perfect. The air is as dry as can be. There's no humidity. The sky is blue. The trees are green. Everything is so lush because we had flash flooding about a week ago. So now we're just soaking up the water and using it everywhere. So it's beautiful. Now, things are going to change. I do think, based on what I've read, I've been off, so I haven't paid attention to the weather on purpose, but I read the AFD because I'm working tomorrow, and it looks like we're getting back into this showery pattern, troughiness over the Northeast. So that's not going to be fun, but I think I would take that over 90 and high humidity. I still don't have air conditioning, and I'm trying to make it through the summer. I feel like if I'm a third of the way through meteorological summer, there's at least a chance that I can get through. But we'll see what happens. At least the last few days have been stunning.
Yeah, that's great. Great to hear.
Nice.
And you're actually in transit right now, right?
I am in Vermont because I was visiting some family. Of course, I worked on July 4th and the day before and the weekend before. So while everyone was out boating and drinking and doing whatever they do, I was working and actually covering tornado warnings. So my weekend was Wednesday and today, and now I'm going back tomorrow. So it was good. The weather was good.
Gotcha.
And now it's back to work, 4 days on the morning show.
Nice. Well, let's introduce our guest here, Alli Keclik. Actually been a friend of mine for a while now. We met out in Colorado at an internship. Alli got her undergraduate degree from Florida State University, then went on to get her master's at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. Now she's a National Weather Service meteorologist at the WFO in Twin Cities / Chanhassen. I don't know if I'm saying that right, in Minnesota. Alli, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dakota. It's nice to be on the show. And you're correct. It's Chanhassen.
Chanhassen. Okay, gotcha. Cool. So how's the weather up there? What do you guys got going on?
Oh, it's wonderful. We've had southerly flow highs in the 90s today. People were complaining the past 2 days that it's too humid, but I'm from Florida, and so this is actually enjoyable. But we did have a front come through, and so now tomorrow it'll highs will only be in the 80s, but that's still plenty warm, and the humidity is going to die down with winds out of the northwest. So
Nice.
I'm enjoying the dry weather. And
Yeah.
like Tyler, yesterday and today were my weekend. So I'm back to the morning shift tomorrow. So I was able to get out and enjoy the sunshine.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. So shift work is something we're definitely going to talk about later in the show, because that is a big so some people it's a big deal as a National Weather Service meteorologist. So we'll definitely touch on that in the main segment. But let's go and talk about a few tweets here that Tyler and I picked out. This first one comes from the National Weather Service in Guay, Maine, I think, Tyler?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Guay, Maine, and it is the tweet says, here's an updated map of where the 5 confirmed Maine tornadoes occurred on Saturday. And it's basically just a screenshot of a Google map with five confirmed tornadoes and their paths and their rankings. There were 3 EF1s, and 1 EF0 or 2 EF0s. EF0 is the lowest intensity ranking, and EF1 is the second lowest. And then there's another one from National Weather Service Gray that says, we issued 7 tornado warnings today, the most we've ever issued in a single day or even a whole year until now. So that just goes to show how kind of rare this event was for the Northeast, particularly in Maine, and Vermont and New Hampshire. Tyler, you were covering this day, right? I assume.
It was a crazy day. It was mostly east of where we cover, but 2 of those tornado warnings were in our easternmost portions of the area. They didn't actually produce tornadoes, so that was good. All of the tornadoes that were confirmed were in Maine, but it was a crazy event. And if you look at the map, the tornadoes were all within the same area. It wasn't spread out. I know 5 sounds like a lot, and I would argue that some of those were from the same storm. They weren't all completely separate, but they were all in Maine's Lakes region. And there was actually a pretty prolific picture that circulated from Sebago Lake, which is a large lake destination. This was on last Saturday, so keep in mind, people had already set up shop for the July 4th weekend. So there were a lot of people enjoying themselves. As far as I know, no one was killed or injured. I don't think anyone was killed. I don't know about injuries, but I haven't heard of anything major, especially when you think about it now that it was a holiday weekend. I would say that the event was, I think it was decently forecast. I know the severe thunderstorm watch had to be extended east during the event, but there was a slight risk going into it. And I mean, for me personally, I stayed from 4 a.m. to 7 p.m. and I didn't leave after we were done. So that tells me that there was enough of an indication that something was going to happen in the afternoon, because otherwise I would have left. So I stayed, and our evening person came in, and so we overlapped for several hours, and that was good. Flash flooding concerns here in Vermont, and it was pretty bad. I mean, there were roads that were washed out, and we've just had a lot of rain in the last month or two, so that definitely added to the problems. But it was a crazy day. I mean, you don't have too many days in New England with tornadoes. And I will also say that there were also tornado warnings to our west, just north of Albany. They didn't. So that day, as far as I know, did not have any tornadoes in the Albany area, but hand warnings there was a tornado, but there were also 2 tornadoes that occurred the day before that were not tornado warned at all. So I probably a lot of people were really on edge.
Yeah.
Going into Saturday, and at least from the Weather Service in Albany's perspective, I thought they were going to be trigger happy because they didn't want to miss another event. But I don't know. It's just a very busy day.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, kudos for the good work. There's also a tweet here that you put from Jackson Witherill. You can follow him at JacksonW95. Mother Nature putting on a show at Sebago Lake, Maine. And there's a really nice water spout out over the lake. Very, very impressive. Yeah,
that was part of the same event. That was one of the earlier ones, and there's actually a pretty intense video of it. If you go to YouTube and you type in Sebago Lake, there's a dramatic video. Of course, everyone was there because of the holidays, so everyone had their smartphone ready to record. And it was that one that actually came ashore. So that was one of the confirmed tornadoes when it came ashore.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like 4 out of the 5 ended up going over some body of water at some point, which is interesting.
Yeah, a lot of bodies of water there, so
yeah,
that helped.
Changing the subject here, we'll go to a tweet from NASA Airborne. You can follow them at NASA Airborne. Their tweet says, to validate NOAA's GO-16's lightning mapper, which is the new satellite that's been put up to bring us the best and latest weather data. There are 2 pilots chasing storms at 65,000 feet, and attached is a GIF image of a plane, I guess, that's going up. That's incredible. Wow, I didn't realize they were going to have a validation project as well going on with this.
That is insane to me. I didn't either. And when you think about it, commercial airlines fly at between, say, 30 and 40,000 feet. So this plane is flying at 65,000. Obviously, it has to be above the thunderstorms. You don't want to fly through them or under them for safety reasons. So you have to fly above them. And 65,000 feet is above thunderstorms. So I think that's pretty cool. I mean, to be able to see if it's actually accurate, I think it's cool and it's important. I didn't know it could be done though before I saw that tweet.
Yeah. I'm just reading the article now, and it says this instrument, the first of its kind ever developed for operational use, will measure total lightning in cloud and cloud to ground and lightning flash rates from 22,000 miles away. In concert with other forecaster tools, it will help provide more accurate and earlier warnings of developing severe storms. Alli, have you gotten to look at this data yet? And if so, what do you think? Is it as awesome as it looks?
I have not been able to look at the GLM, the lightning data yet. However, I've been using your general satellite products such as visible, infrared, and it's amazing, the resolution and being able to see everything so much faster than before has been absolutely wonderful. A lot of eye candy, being able to detect outflow boundaries, convection distribution, all that. But I'm excited to see what the GLM. We have different products for lightning, pulse lightning, as well as cloud to ground lightning. So I'm going to be interested in comparing, how much useful the GLM will be.
Gotcha.
Yeah, doesn't the Weather Service have the Earth Network's total lightning data?
Yes.
The in-cloud. I think most people consider that to be the best lightning network that there is. So I don't think everyone understands, especially if you're listening to this show and you're not a meteorologist or you're not in the field. Lightning data is very expensive and very hard to come by. So this could be a game changer because it would be free because it's a government satellite. That's my understanding. So if this data turns out to be comparable to for-profit networks, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could potentially save some money. So I need to learn a little bit more about all the background information, but I believe during the day it won't be so useful. It takes in what it is an infrared optical transient detector, so it notices the difference in
temperature,
I guess, and I presumably temperature. So during the daytime, it might be more difficult to distinguish lightning.
Yeah, well, the other thing of interest is definitely precision. Some of the images that I've seen, grid boxes that are shaded. Oh, I know for a lot of event type meteorology and protection, you really want that point data. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it might be more of a way to see lightning density more so than actual strikes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, look forward to seeing some people get their hands on that and distributing it and putting it up on their sites. I know there is some chatter this week about who is going to be the first to publicly display it for everyone. So yeah, looking forward to that. Our final tweet here comes from the Weather Social. You can follow them at the WX Social. They tweeted out, example of why relative humidity is not the best parameter to actually describe humidity. And they give a chart with a few cities, and with the cities, they give the relative humidity, the temperature, the dew point, and what it feels like. So for instance, in Barrow, Alaska, temperature can be 48 degrees Fahrenheit with a relative humidity of 80%, which you think, it's pretty humid. But the dew point is actually 42 degrees, which is a more absolute measure of humidity. And so then it feels like 42 degrees as well, because it's really not that humid. And then they give another example where the relative humidity is 68% in Key West, Florida, but the temperature is 87 degrees and the dew point is 75. So you have a dew point lower than it was in Alaska. Or sorry, you have a relative humidity that was lower than it was in Alaska, but the dew point was almost 30 degrees higher at 75, which is a much muggier and feels like 96 degrees. So Tyler, do you use relative humidity or dew point on air?
I use both in different situations.
Yeah.
So if it's a snowstorm, relative humidity is a neat way how moist the air is. Certainly visibility helps with snow and stuff like that. That's really the only time that I would look at relative humidity. But I would say this is a huge communication challenge because you're using a word in different ways, and that is humidity. And obviously all of your weather apps and everything show humidity, but people interpret that as something else. They don't look at their app and say, oh, they look at it and they say, oh, 100% relative humidity, it's going to be terrible out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a challenge. Go ahead.
The challenge is I personally use, so we have a trend that and I call it the comfort trend, because that way using a different it's all word is it's or not.
didn't hear everything you said because your audio is going in and out, but yeah. Moral of the story, it's a communication issue, and using the what it feels like temperature can be useful. So that'll do it for the tweets this week. Kind of a wide variety.
Just
Go
one
ahead, Alli.
comment,
Yeah, go ahead.
if I may. Yeah, so going back to the humidity, what it feels like temperature, if you consider heat index or it's wet bulb temperature. There's one meteorologist in my office, Lisa Schmidt, who's working on this, trying to advertise this product called wet bulb globe temperature to give you a better measure of heat, and incorporates not only temperature and humidity, but also wind speed, sun angle, and cloud cover. So that might be able to give you a better idea of what the temperature actually feels like outside compared to just temperature and humidity.
Yeah, because what does heat index start at? What's the lower bound on that?
Heat index, I'd have to check.
I think it's in it maybe 80s. It's not as low as you might think. So you could have a temperature of 65 and a dew point of 65, and it would feel gross.
Mm-hmm.
By New England standards, not Florida standards. But I bet there would be a heat index. I think it's higher than that. Just like wind chill doesn't occur over a certain value.
Wet bulb globe temperature. That's cool. I've never heard of that. I just looked it up and it looks really cool. It encompasses like everything.
Yeah, the Army, I believe, uses it. There's a research institute after a football player that died due to heat.
Gotcha.
The Corey Stringer Institute, and so there's been some research done for that.
Gotcha. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll wrap up the Twitter section there. If you have a tweet you want us to use in the future, just send it our way and we'll be glad to talk about it. Let's move on to our main segment of the night. That's talking with Alli about her job, what she does at the National Weather Service, and the daily grind that is being a National Weather Service meteorologist and just a meteorologist in general. So Alli, how did you get into weather? You're born and raised in Florida, I believe, in Miami. I'm assuming that probably had something to do with it. Just tell us about your background.
Sure. Well, I was born 2 weeks before Hurricane Andrew made landfall
in
way. Miami. Yeah, so I was a little baby and I apparently slept through the whole storm. So growing up, I always heard stories about Andrew came through, we hid in the hallway and there's so much damage and whatnot. And so that really intrigued me that, there could be storms as powerful as Hurricane Andrew. And then watching Weather Channel, then I decided that I liked math and looking into programs for college. I decided, well, I like the weather and I can handle the math. At least I think I can. So I decided to pursue my degree in meteorology. Didn't know exactly what I would do right when I started out. I wasn't sure if broadcast, research, or meteorology, what I do now, would be my end goal. But through activities and I've found my path, and now National Weather Service in Chanhassen.
That's great. And so what do you do there right now? I guess how long have you been there? I kind of forget when you started, and what are you doing now in your role?
Sure. So I started in September of last year, so almost at my 1 year mark.
Nice.
Just intern. The intern title sort of describes the job incorrectly. You're not really an intern, you are an employee. It's just describe the entry-level meteorologist at the National Weather Service. But we have the upper air, or the weather balloon launches. So my schedule sort of revolves around that. So balloons at around 0 UTC or 12 UTC or 7 a.m., 7 p.m. And so that's one of my, I launched the weather balloon with the radio sonde and make sure we're getting data coming in and then send it out so that way it can go into weather models and people can see what our sounding looks like. And also I take care of quality controlling a lot of the observations that we see. If there's a rogue, weird, or precipitation, we will quality control that and take that out so it doesn't go into our weather grids. And people aren't like, why is it saying it's -5 degrees out in the middle of summer? So keep an eye on that. And also training for the future. The next role in the National Weather Service would be general forecaster.
Nice.
So between different shift duties, I'll do some training if the weather's quiet. We have some courses online, or I'll try to help the forecasters with the aviation forecasts. So it's been fun so far. And also when there's severe weather, now allowed to issue warnings. I went through radar school. And so I can issue warnings or help out with social media, respond to people on Facebook or Twitter, answer phone calls, write down or submit local storm reports to our system. So people like Tyler and the broadcast media can see what people reported. And so that's just some of the roles that I do.
It sounds like a kind of like a tools of all trade kind of position right now. What have been some of the challenges as a new National Weather Service employee that you faced?
Challenges. Luckily, I've had I'm in a great office, and everyone has been really nice and helpful. So I know I could always turn to someone if I have a question, and I feel comfortable doing that.
That's great.
Let's see. I'm practice with AWIPS, and I know as I begin to try to do more forecasting, getting used to our use for making the forecast, GFE, forecast, and I forget what the E stands for right now. I know that's going to be a little bit of work to get used to because we have the challenges is that we have a lot of data sets and we have a lot of models and a lot of observations, and it's kind of hard to sit down and pick which weather model you want to look at, just because there's a lot available to you, especially now with the high-res convective allowing models.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's like data overload would be a challenge, and just getting used to or getting accustomed to the biases that each weather model has and all that. And also just getting used to hours and having a rotating schedule is also a difficulty sometimes.
Yeah, so I follow a bunch of National Weather Service people on Twitter, and it's funny because I work a lot at night because it's when I'm like, I don't know, my brain turns on, and I see a lot of the National Weather Service meteorologists on Twitter as well because they're starting their mid-shift. Have you had these shifts yet? And how is it? I couldn't imagine that kind of like role where you're it's basically like just you and a few other people, I guess, and it's dark and it's I don't know. It sounds kind of fun to me if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I've not had a midshift yet. Eventually, when I get more forecast training in, I most likely will have it. But since we do have the upper air at my office, my schedule, like I said, sort of revolves around that.
Gotcha.
So I'm guessing if I didn't have upper air, my schedule would be a little more flexible. But yeah, in the mid shifts, there's 2 forecasters there overnight. So it's tough. My morning shift, the 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. shift is, I guess it's a little bit easier on the body with not having to stay up all night. It's just kind of tough going to bed really early if you like going to bed late.
Yeah. Interesting. I find it funny when Twitter just starts lighting up with meteorologists, a National Weather Service meteorologist, and it's like midnight or whatever.
Yeah.
Tyler, I think you're going to chime in there. Did you have a question? No, Tyler. Okay.
Well, hope
so
he's there.
Yeah, so the position that you're in right now, technically it's called an intern. I just noticed that a bunch of those positions actually just came up on usajobs.gov.
Yes.
So I guess that's the same position that you're in right now. So like I don't know, what kind of people would you like recommend to go for those jobs? Is it people just coming out of their bachelor's degree, or is it more master's degree based? And what kind of interest do you think people should have if they're going for a job like that?
Well, it is getting competitive now. I know people with just bachelor degrees really struggle to get hired unless they have some sort of experience helping out or volunteering at a National Weather Service office. I know when you volunteer at an office and you get good recommendation from the MIC or the people at the office, that would be beneficial. But lately, most of the applicants, I think, need to have a master's degree.
Gotcha.
Yep. So, just take advantage of every opportunity you can get. And, or look for opportunities. Contact your local National Weather Service office. If you can't have a official volunteership, maybe at least shadow a few times.
That's good advice. So you mentioned that you've interacted with your viewing audience via social media. Is that process rewarding, and what are some of the interactions that you have with members of the public?
It is rewarding. You get to see what the public's thinking. Sometimes, I just realize that we have, our website available. So, it's good to answer their questions because, we want the public to be safe. And we also just try to spread the message that we always have this information available online for them to look at. It's nice to see a lot of people, thanking us for what we do, which is always nice. Also, we really appreciate people submitting storm reports or tweeting us their pictures of hail. It's really useful.
Yeah.
So we can see, with the storm we warned on, that we're sure is producing severe hail is actually producing severe hail. So that's really rewarding when people share that information with us. And sometimes like Tyler and the broadcast meteorologist will with us, which is also good.
So you moved from Florida up to Minnesota, correct?
And I stopped at Milwaukee on the way.
Oh, Milwaukee. Sorry.
Yes,
Yeah, Wisconsin, Florida, Wisconsin, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like totally different climates, totally different weather. What do you miss about Florida? What do you not miss about Florida? What do you like about living in the Midwest now?
I don't miss the humidity, which is nice. I mean, here we'll get our humid days, but it's not the constant.
Yeah.
I do like the seasons up here. Nice to see the change. Decided fall is my favorite now, but the winters aren't that easy, especially when you have to launch the weather balloon at 5 in the morning at like negative 10 degrees out.
Yikes.
But if there's no wind, going back to that relative humidity and that tweet, you know, what it feels like outside. If there's no wind out and it's negative 10, it'll feel like, you know, 20 maybe outside. Yeah, so getting used to the cold, just buying all that winter clothes. This change I had to do to be up here. And the weather is really different up here. You know, in Florida, I enjoyed the sea breeze, thunderstorms in the afternoon. I mean, Florida can get tornadoes and waterspouts, but up here it seems to me we have a greater chance for severe weather with those the systems that come through here.
Interesting.
It's been neat getting used to the different types of weather.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's good to experience kind of different, I don't know what to call it. It's not a biome, but like a weather room. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just a different type of climate.
Yeah. So I guess we're coming up to I think the 35-minute mark here. I wanted to ask you about your research that you did in your master's degree. What was that all about?
Sure. So my research was on the influence of targeted observations on forecasts for convection initiation. So what I did is I studied the impacts that the observations from the mesoscale predictability experiment that took place in 2013 in the Great Plains, what those added observations and you know, were the forecasts better with or without those extra added observations? The observations I used were the dropsondes from the airplane. So they deployed instruments off the airplanes and it collected the atmospheric profile. And so as most research projects in meteorology involve a lot of programming, and I got to use the WRF model for that. I noticed that there was no convection initiation either way, without the observations and with the observations. And there wasn't that much of a significant change using those target observations. Granted, per case, there was only about, on average, around 20 extra targeted observations. And they were just sort of, the observations were taken where they thought would make the greatest impact on the forecasts in the upstream environment. But in the end, there wasn't that much of a significant change.
That sounds like a nice A nice project combining
Yeah.
observation and modeling and severe weather.
And when I was out there that summer in Colorado, internship where you were at Dakota, I got to go one day and launch a radio sonde for MPEX.
Nice.
So little did I know, a year later,
Full
I'd be
circle
using
there.
data from MPEX. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
remember being jealous of you when you did that.
And I remember later that day when I came back, you guys had all gone storm chasing.
Oh, was that the Wyoming day or
That
where?
was you. I think you saw hail that day
Oh,
because I
okay.
went another time storm chasing with you guys. But
Okay. Yeah, I think we went twice, and I can't really remember the difference between the two of them because I think
oh,
when we
okay.
went to Wyoming, and I think that's the one you were on, right, with us?
Wyoming one.
Yeah, okay, and then yeah, we did the Colorado one. That must have been when you were out and we were, yeah. That's
Yeah.
funny. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So we'll finish up the show here. We ask everyone who comes on the show this question. What kind of advice would you give an up and coming meteorologist, someone who's maybe just getting out of high school, just getting through their bachelor's degree, maybe going through some of those hard classes right now? What advice would you give them?
Well, I sort of mentioned this earlier, but just to be on the lookout for opportunity. And if you don't see anything, go research, look up, scholarships. Like I know the American Meteorological Society gives scholarships, and you can go to conferences, look for internships. If you don't get it, ask what could have been done better, and then apply again next time. I think that's really put me at a good spot of my journey. When you do different opportunities and like internships or shadowing, you get the experience and then you also get your name out there, and it really helps with networking. So that would be my biggest advice.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Trying out new things, meeting people. It's all good. Put yourself out there. Alli, thanks so much for coming on the show and talking with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So that's going to do it for us. If you don't follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at the WX Junkies, and we're also on Facebook. Alli, actually, I didn't ask you, where can people find you on Twitter?
Oh, yeah. So my Twitter handle is Alli Keclik, ALLICLIK.
Nice.
I retweeted the tweet that you guys shared, and also you can also follow my office if you want at NWS Twin Cities.
Nice. I don't think we've had someone promote their National Weather Service page. That's great. So yeah, go give them a follow, the National Weather Service, and her personal page. We'll put it in the description of the episode, and on Twitter, we'll put it there too. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, pretty much any podcast platform. And if you're over there, give us a rating or review. We'd love to hear from you. Tyler, it seems like his connection went out, so I will plug next week. Next week, we're joined by a friend of the show, Steve Fondero. He's a TV meteorologist in California right now. And we're really excited to talk about him because he went from Pennsylvania to California, and to me, it seems like a big transition. So I'm really excited to talk about that with him and learning all the new tips and tricks of a certain region. But for tonight, for Alli, myself, and Tyler, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you right here next week.